Hi, Mr. Adams. I'm going to talk to you today about the viola. The viola is the second smallest string instrument, so the violin is the smallest, then the viola is next. It looks pretty much just like a violin. If you've ever seen one of these, you might have thought it was a violin before. The parts are pretty much all the same as all the other string instruments. I'll go over those in a second. If you were to rent a violin or buy a viola, you would probably notice several things in your case or in your package, so I'm going to talk about those. The first thing, of course, is the instrument. That's very important. I'll talk more about that, like I said, in a second. The next thing you might see is a shoulder rest, which will look something like this. Yours may be a little different, may have different colors down here. Doesn't matter, it's all the same. Next thing you're going to have is a rosin. This is a plastic box. Yours may be in a cardboard box. It might be a little different color. Doesn't matter. It all works the same way for that too. You'll also have a bow, which looks like this. We're not going to mess with this right now. I'll show it to you in a second, but during class, we're not going to mess with this for a little while. And the last thing you may have is a music stand. This one is a fold-up music stand. They're pretty cheap, pretty easy to use. It folds up really small, and it has a little bag that goes with it, so you can carry it around and take it places. But you might have one of those in your case, in your packet with your instrument. Now, as far as the parts of the instrument, I want to point out a few things to you just so you can see what I'm talking about. This area up here is called the head of the instrument, or we call this little area in here the peg box. This is the scroll, because on the side it looks like a little piece of paper rolled up like a scroll. These are the tuning pegs, these 4 pegs right here. We're not going to bother those for right now. This long part is the neck, just like you have a neck underneath your head, right? You've got a head and a neck. This black part on the front is called the fingerboard, not a fretboard like guitar, but a fingerboard. These are the strings, obviously, that run down this way, the silver part. These right here are the shoulders, just like you have shoulders below your neck. This also has a neck and then shoulders below that. These are called the sides, or you might hear them called the bout, B-O-U-T, on the sides. It has a belly just like you. It has a back just like you. On the end, we have an end pin right here. And around the end pin, there's a little bracket that holds on this. This is the chin rest. I'll show you that in a second as well. On the front, we have these 2 things that are called F-holes because they're shaped like cursive Fs, and that's where the sound comes out. So if it weren't for these, if it were just solid, you wouldn't be able to hear very much. It'd be like an electric guitar that wasn't plugged in. So these help the sound to get out of the instrument. We have fine tuners down here that look like that, those little silver pegs. They do kind of a similar job as the main tuners, but they make very small adjustments. And like I said, for the first bit of class, we're not going to touch these, and we're not going to touch these. Okay, so I'll help you tune eventually, but for the first little bit, if we tune it and we accidentally break a string, I can't help you fix the string because I won't be able to see you in person for a while. So don't bother these, and don't bother these fine tuners. Last thing I want to show you is this right here. This wooden piece is called the bridge. It kind of looks like Swiss cheese, or yours might have like a little heart shape in the middle of it. That's called the bridge. That just holds the strings up off the fingerboard so they don't smack on the fingerboard when you play. All right? Now, so here's the whole instrument put together. There are a couple different ways that we can play a string instrument. The first way is with the bow. And like I said, we're not going to use the bow at first. We'll get to it pretty quickly, but we're not going to use it at first. I'll show you the bow hold first of all, though, just so you can see it. For violins and violas, the bow hold is pretty much the same. Your fingers are nice and curved on top. They're not all the way down like this. It's not caveman style. It's just nice and curved. And your thumb goes right here. So it's not inside of that little notch. It's right next to this little wooden block. And I'll tell you what that's called in a second. So you get your thumb right there. Fingers just kind of rest on top. Your middle finger's right across from your thumb. Nice and curved. Shouldn't be flat or caveman or anything like that. Nice and curved. All right? Now, as far as the bow, before we start playing a little bit, the bow has several parts to it as well, just like the instrument. This long part that looks like a stick is called the stick. Very creative. This part is called the tip. The part that's furthest away from your hand is called the tip. This part underneath it here is the hair, or you might hear it called bow hair. We're not going to touch that because there's oil on your fingers that can make the hair tear up really fast. So don't touch this with your fingers, the bow hair part. This part right here, this wooden part is called the frog. I don't know why, this is what they call it. It's called the frog. And this little silver part on the end is called the screw. And this part will actually turn, but you don't want to turn it yet because there's a chance you could break your bow. You can break the tip off and then you can't use your bow anymore. Okay, so we're going to leave this alone. We're going to leave the tuning pegs alone. You can leave your bow in your case completely right now. We don't need that at all. All right, I will show you what it sounds like with the bow. This is one way you can play the instrument. There are a couple different ways, but this is one way. It goes up on your shoulder like this. Your chin just sits on the chin rest like that. It doesn't have to be all the way in it or anything. Just nice and gently on there. And you pull the bow across the strings. Okay, so that's one way. If you haven't seen the violin video, it's very similar to this video, but you can hear me play the violin a little bit. You can hear the difference. This is a little bit lower, a little bit bigger instruments, a little bit lower sound. The other way you can play it, if you don't have a bow, which we're not going to use the bow for the first bit of class, take your finger. You're going to take your thumb, first of all, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. Put it right on the corner of that fingerboard. We're not under it. We're not under the strings. Right on the corner right there. Take your finger, your first finger, wrap it around, touch one of the strings, and we're going to pull the string sideways. We're not going to pluck up like this. We're going to go sideways. Okay? So let me let you see that a little easier. Okay? You'll notice when I do that, my finger rests on the next string. See how it's sitting there on there? It's not pulling it or anything, it's just sitting on it. Okay? And you can play it the same way. Alright? So that's the viola. If you have any questions about the violin or viola, if you watch the other video and this one, let me know. My email address is samuel.adams2@montgomery.kyschools.us. I'll be glad to help you any way I can, and I'll see you soon. Bye.